Hey everyone, Mad Header here, and welcome to another video. Now, I know I haven't uploaded in the past few days, but I've been playing Terraria and Bloons 6 with a couple of my friends and a couple of my mods in my Discord server, which I will be making videos for soon, so hopefully, you guys will enjoy that. However, let's begin with today's actual topic. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking for what to mileage. I constantly get questions like, should I mileage, Kama-L? Should I mileage Jinha? This will be an entirely dedicated video on what to mileage and what not to mileage. Now, I want you to understand that there's a lot of rules that apply when mileaging things, but I'm gonna state two things here, right? Generally, if these two things are true, it's fine to mileage things. However, do realize that most of the times before you mileage something, it's not really a, do I have this? No, I'll mileage it. No, it's not like that. It's more so a, do I have this? No? Okay, then maybe let's see what this will accomplish for me. If so, if it will accomplish something good, then you're going to want to understand why. Then you're going to understand what you can do with it. What will that change for you? Don't just mileage something because, it's new, or, I don't have it. Mileage something because it's going to change something for you, okay? Mileaging should be based off of a need, not a want, right? If you're gonna mileage, make sure it's changing something. For example, let's say you're doing raids, right? And you're running Mono Dark. If you need Claude, you're gonna want to mileage his EX if you have him, right? That's something that will change it because it will heavily increase your raid DPS. That's gonna change something that's really important. However, let's say, you're doing range raids for all your teams and, you just got, let's say, Lilith. Mileaging her EX won't do anything for you at all whatsoever because, well, she's melee, right? You primarily only use her melee raids and she's occasionally used in PvP. So this is just an example. If something isn't going to beneficially change your account progress right now, it's not worth mileaging. It's as simple as that. Now, the second thing you want to check is this banner going to come around anytime soon, right? For example, let's say, the last time a character appeared was 4 months ago, right? Chances are they're probably going to be coming around sometime soon, so you may not want to mileage them because, well, their banner is going to be coming up. And there's a lot of ways to just check these resources, and I've just been crashing my Earth raid teams into these, okay? But there's a lot of ways to check these. You can check past banner updates. You can check my channel for when certain banners release because I always do update reviews and banner reviews. However, your best source is just going to be going on the official update release website and just logging back or asking in the Guardian Tales Discord or even my Discord server. And if you haven't joined that, make sure to do. We're always active. You can ask any questions and you'll get an awesome response. Now, let's begin. Once you understand those two things, make sure you ask those questions to yourself, okay? If, for example, I'm just going to give a small example here. Whoever clicks off, just click off, okay? No need to watch the video then. But if for example, let's say you need Yunha, right? Check when her banner came out. 4th anniversary, right? That was a pretty decent time ago, right? It wasn't too long ago to the point where you're like, yeah, her banner's definitely coming up. And it wasn't too short ago where you'd be like, man, her banner's a long way away. It's at a point where her banner could probably be coming up soon. But you know what's a character whose banner will most probably be coming up soon? It's Beth. Her banner is long overdue, and it's probably going to come in the next few patches. So if you either need her or her EX, then first of all, answer the first question, what is Beth going to change for you? And then ask the second question, is her banner coming out soon? And if those answers fit the criteria, then you're good to go, right? Now that you have your foolproof method of checking what to mileage and what not to mileage, let's begin. Short notice, this is going to cover every single unique hero. I will be covering a few of the rare heroes, so if you want to see more long form, highly in-depth guides like this, make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and see you all in a bit. First off is Plitvice. You do not want to mileage this character ever. In fact, you hopefully don't even want to see her in your pulls because you get her for free for unlocking the ice crystal that's in Heavenhold, which I think costs 1 million SP, which I might have been different, but I think it costs 1 million SP. But yeah, it's not a very useful character. On release, back when GT was super new, she actually wasn't that bad, but that was only because you didn't have other options. However, she's just fallen off in terms of other characters. She just doesn't provide as much. And yeah, sure, she does have 2 EXs. She just doesn't do enough to be worth it. She just, simply put, like, some of you guys will be like, Hatter, why are you being like this? Explain the kit. She just isn't good, right? She's part of, some fire PvP teams, and she's part of, some very, very few fire raid teams. But she's still being transitioned out of them. Fire isn't even a good raid team in the first place. In fact, it's only a endgame low-level boss bullying option that isn't even accessible for majority of the player base. Because first of all, you have to be able to do just raids comfortably, which means hitting, 500, 600 million DP damage per season at least, comfortably, to be able to, think about building a fire raid team to bully lower level bosses. And even then, your better investment is just making your overall raid teams better. Fire raid isn't as good as a lot of people make it out to be, okay? Elvira damage is insane, but you also need a heavily invested team where Elvira and Nari are pretty much the only splashable heroes outside of that team. The rest are just absolute moronic characters that are useless outside of Modifier. Do not mileage Plitvice, do not mileage your Lapice. Lapice actually isn't too bad. However, in the same way that I like to not recommend specialists for early to mid game players, I'm going to say it here as well. Lapice is not good early to mid game at all whatsoever. It's just not a good option. She has some, fun PvP usage, especially in Arena, really fun unit to play around with. And in terms of light melee raid, she's also really fun there. However, once again, it's really an endgame activity, and I don't think light is a good element for raids at all, especially, melee teams in general. And it's not because melees are inherently bad. In fact, a lot of melee units are good, right? For example, Beth. They're just lacking in terms of supports. The amount of supports ranged units have are insane. It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? Ranged support is so powerful that it's incomparable. Like, Beth is comparable to some of the best ranged DPSs in the game. However, she has nowhere near the supports that they have, and so she just falls off in comparison. You generally just want to go ranged for, what's the majority of your playthrough. Of course, if you enjoy melees, go for melees, right? Don't prioritize meta when you're not going to have fun. Fun's always the most important, but if you want to know the most optimal decision, don't mileage Lapice or her EX. It's not going to give you much value early to mid game, and end game by that point, unless you're a whale, you're better off having other teams, right? Dark is super powerful. Basic is super powerful. Fun fact: Basic is actually getting buffed next patch because Future Knight's basic defense shred is getting buffed to 30%. Fire is also getting buffed, but I don't care about fire, so I haven't checked into it. However, yeah. Like, Dark, Basic are just super broken, and Earth is always good. Like, ranged Earth is always a good option. It's never, game-breakingly powerful like Dark is right now, but it's also never bad like, occasionally how Fire is. It's just always a really good option to have because Earth is just, in my opinion, the most generically good element ever. It's just good. That's it. That's genuinely it. There are times when Earth is broken, but it's just good. The same can't be said for Light. Light has had its days with Future Princess dominating PvP, MK99 being an absolute pain in the ass to deal with, but she's really fallen off nowadays. The same for Future Princess. They're still good units, but that's all they are now. And Lapice doesn't really fit to the original OP standard either. She's just always been a mediocre unit, if not useless. It really depends on your end game goals and what resources you have available to you, but in general, she just isn't worth it. This is a really sad story. It makes me sad to talk about this. As someone who once, loved using Marina, her EX, everything, she has fallen a really long way. Her original days, she used to be one of the best tanking options. Super powerful, extremely strong in Arena. Just overall absolute menace to deal with. Super powerful. She sucks now. Just straight up. Like, she can still be okay in Arena, especially in, lower difficult, lower elos, and especially if you have higher stats. But stat checking isn't really a good requirement for a character to be good, because you can realistically stat check with anything. Like, I could probably beat the crap out of a new player with Bob. It's really not hard. Stat checking doesn't make a unit good. every unit can stat check to some degree. Some just do it a bit better because of the natural power of their kit. It just doesn't make them better on equal or higher levels. Marina has sadly fallen off. She isn't even a pure tank. She does not provide the tankiness that, for example, Craig, who is it's debatable, okay? Craig is arguably the best tank in terms of tankiness, okay? If you want someone to soak up as much damage as possible, Craig is the best option. Oghma is a relatively close second, but in terms of versatility, in my opinion, Oghma is just better because Oghma scales harder into the endgame with a gun and raids, which it's completely debatable, okay? That is completely debatable because Craig is just too much of a tanking monster. However, that's not the topic here. Marina isn't a tank. Okay, I hate to break it to you, she isn't a tank. She provides very, very little utility to her team other than her party buff. Heck, even her EX is not even, very helpful to her team. It only boosts her damage. It doesn't even provide her with defense or anything right up to a high level. It's only 6%. The limit break is 10% attack. It's a really sad character that's meant to be a good PvP tank that's just fallen off. She's not worth mileaging, nor is her weapon. There's infinitely better. Arabelle is in a really, really weird place, okay? She is part of the Monodark Coliseum team. She used to be part of a Monodark range in raids, but that was a long, long time ago. However, she still has a pretty decent place in Coliseum. It's just that not really a good early to mid-game option. If you're an endgame player and you have a maxed out Arabelle, she's going to be very, very nice at shitting on a lot of teams. For example, Yunha teams. She's just super good at that. But it does require a really well-built Arabelle, max limit broken EX and everything, and a really well-structured team with lots of stats. So it's not really a generally available option. However, if you're a new player and mid-game player, don't mileage her or her weapon. If you're an endgame player and you do have Monodark built and you want a Monodark Coliseum team and you have most of, the team assembled, she's a really good option because she shits on some of the more annoying Coliseum units. For example, Yunha. But endgame is a really weird place for Coliseum. I'm sorry if I called Coliseum Arena, I'm sorry for that. I meant Coliseum for all of Arabelle because she is a Colo unit primarily nowadays. Colo's a really weird place because up until top 100, it's just stat checking simulator. Sure, of course, you can, beat other players if you have better comps, which it's going to happen, especially with, the lesser active players. You're going to beat them because you have better comps. However, up until top 100, it really doesn't matter what teams you run as long as you just have better stats and gear. So once you get to that point, that's when you actually start building teams. However, this is also where most people lose interest in the game mode because it's boring. It's just AIs fighting it out, and the gem rewards from, top 100 to top 10 to top 1, top 2, it's so small that it's like, what am I doing all this for, right? It's just not worth it. Heck, over the past few days, I haven't even been bothering with Coliseum. Whatever team I have active at the moment, I just crash it into Colo teams and don't even bother. If I win, I win. If I lose, I lose, right? So if I'll be doing raids, I'll just go in with a raid team, whatever. It doesn't matter. But Arabelle isn't really an early to mid-game option. Don't mileage her or her EX. If you're an endgame player, sure, go for it. It's not the best option, but it's also not the worst. Eva, she used to be part of, I believe, the basic raid teams. But she's really, really fallen off. Basic is just absolutely in the stratosphere with Yunha. Hopefully the upcoming buffed Future Knight. It's just so powerful, and Eva's just been left behind. She really has. She actually wouldn't have even been that bad if she was like Kana. Like, to be replaced by a melee unit in your ranged raid team is really sad. It's a weird situation, like, not even properly replaced. It's super weird, but Eva isn't good. It's really as simple as that. She doesn't do much as basic would like it. In fact, she isn't even that bad of a buffer. It's just she can't really work outside of basic. Right, if her party buff was a generic 50% attack, she actually wouldn't be half bad as an offensive support. It's just not. She's locked into basic, and basic does better without her than with her. So she's just not that good. She's just pretty useless outside of it. And maybe she'll get a second EX which changes her party buff. However, until then, she's not going to be doing anything. She and her EX are not worth mileaging at all whatsoever. This makes me sadder than Marina. Okay, Bari makes me much sadder than Marina. She used to be the queen of damage, okay? On release, Bari was, it was like a wet dream come true, okay? So much damage, such an awesome character, mono earth every day of the week. Just, it's really sad, but she's useless now. She's just a glass cannon that doesn't provide anything outside of absolute nukes, and her nukes aren't even strong anymore. So, yeah, she's just a fallen off DPS. Maybe she'll get a second EX. Who knows? But until then, she's useless. She and her EX are not worth mileaging, and it hurts me to say that. Lupina! Now, I can't talk about if you... Like, okay, once again, for Coliseum, if you're building Mono Darks and stuff, she is absolutely worth mileaging, or her EX if you have the teams built and you're ready to go with them. However, outside of that, she's just not worth it, in my opinion, because you can't use her in anything else. There's just every other team, every other character functions in all content outside of Coliseum better than her. But Lupina in Mono Dark is an absolute demon, okay? She is super, super good in Coliseum, and that's where she shines. However, outside of that, she isn't good. So, this is one of the few characters where I'll be like, hey, if you want to do mid to end game Coliseum and you really like Mono Dark, Lupina is actually really nice there, okay? So, yeah. If you really like her, if you really like Coliseum, and you're a mid to end game player, Lupina, if you already have her, or if you already have her EX, isn't a bad option to mileage. However, there are caveats regarding her, because once again, Coliseum, if I have already said that it's a stat checking game up until top 100, do you really think you're going to stay in top 100 without stats? You're not. So, being able to comfortably maintain top 100 without stats it's annoying. It's difficult because you're constantly going to have to burn your tickets. You're going to have to play a lot. You're going to actually have to focus on comps. It's not worth it, so get to endgame and then work on your Coliseum comps. Your early to mid game to the transition into endgame Coliseum comps should be pretty basic bread and butter comps, right? For example, you know, whatever characters you have, find a good balance between them. I'll make a Coliseum team building guide and just use that team. You'll be fine, right? It's cookie cutter Coliseum teams aren't worth it until your end game. They're just not. Too expensive to build, too much investment, and heck, it's not even worth it. So her and her EX are generally not worth mileaging. Lahn, if you're an absolute raid bot and you like basic raids, her with her quill is actually a pretty good option. However, she might actually be replaced with Future Knight soon. So, that's debatable. I'm not going to comment, but she's generally not worth mileaging, nor is her weapon. Just not worth it. Especially her gauntlet version is so bad, it's not worth it. Her quill is the only version that's good, because it makes her useful in ranged basic raids. But if Future Knight replaces her, she's just not worth it. So, for now, generally, you don't want to mileage her or her EX. Eugene, how about no? No, don't mileage her or her EX. Absolutely not worth it. She is a fun arena hero. If you're weird, you can use her in light melee raids, but that's only if you're really weird, and I don't recommend you do that, so don't do it. However, she's just bad. It's really it. I don't have much else to say about her. Eugene is just super stinky. That's it. Don't mileage her or EX. Tinia. This is another one that makes me sad because I really enjoy her and her character. I enjoy lots of parts about her character, but more specifically, 4 things. I'll let you guess which ones. However, she is a generic defense Mark Shredder. Okay, Mark defense Shredder, whatever. Right? She is getting a bit buffed next patch. I don't think it's anything too major or game-breaking. She has been primarily replaced by First Corps Commander because First Corps Commander does the job better party buff, just better. So, she doesn't really do much outside of Mono Earth. In Mono Earth, she's pretty decent. However, it does seem that she is due for a transition out of Mono Earth because it's been a while since Mono Earth has gotten a support. I mean, Amaris, sure, but she's more so a DPS, less of a support. And I do think Mono Earth is in time for a new Mark Defense Shredder. She's not bad. However, the thing is, she doesn't need her EX at all. She doesn't need it. It doesn't do anything for her kit outside of doing some more damage. That's literally it. That is it. So, if, you know, you're not doing endgame raids, she just isn't worth it at all whatsoever. So, yeah, generally, she is not worth mileaging, and her weapon is absolutely... Oh, my God, that profile picture. Oh, my God. Hold on, I gotta stare at it for a few more seconds. Alright, I think I've got enough. Anyways, Not worth it. I mean, with, I believe this one's called Volcanic Core. Yeah, with Volcanic Core, she is part of the mono fire range teams, but, like I've explained, it's not very good. And, do we need to talk about Volcanic Horn? This thing stinks. So yeah, she does have some fun arena usage, but that's not really a efficient player thing or early to mid game thing. Once you get to end game and you can comfortably do every content, you can just do whatever you want and screw around. So at that point, you don't even need this video. However, Vishuvac here is not worth mileage. Nari, she is not worth mileaging. And fun fact, you actually don't need her EX either, because it's just a higher chance of defense shred, which isn't necessary. I guess it does make the defense shred a bit more consistent. However, once again, it's not necessary, and she only acts as a generic range defense shredder. Like, the only team where having her EX is actually relatively important is ranged basic, because her damage is actually really nice there. However, outside of that, if you're just using her as a generic range defense shredder, she's not even going to be using her EX anyway. She's just going to be using whatever fire or dark or earth EX you're using. However, you wouldn't use her in mono earth. You would not. You have Kamael. Why would you ever use, Nari in mono earth when you have Kamael? That's just crazy. So yeah, don't mileage her or her EX. No, stop. Just stop. Oghma is a fun situation. If you're mileaging him for being a tank, it's not worth it. You have Craig. If you're mileaging him to complete your mono dark raid teams with gun, it's worth it, but you don't want to do that until you're mid to end game. It's just not worth it. Like, what are you going to do with gun Oghma early to mid game? Nothing. You're just going to do literally nothing, okay? So don't bother with it. Don't mileage. Absolutely do not mileage his sword. Okay, this is like end game arena stuff. That's the only time where you need his sword EX. That's it. Before that, it's not necessary. And in PvE content, his sword does literally jack squat. It does nothing. So don't get the sword, and his gun's only worth it for ranged dark raids. It does have some niche uses outside of that. However, it's not really worth it for those. So Oghma is sometimes worth mileaging, depending on your situation. He is a good character. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just not. This is cursed. Should not be in the game. Get out. Maya, she is free for all new players, and if you don't have her, that's unfortunate. But in my opinion, she isn't really worth mileaging because, well, she was already given up for free, so if you didn't get her then, it's a really weird spot where if you mileage her, it's stinky because she's a healer. So just either wait for her banner if you really need Maya, but definitely don't mileage her. And her EX is not something you mileage either. It's nice. It's actually really nice. It increases her healing output by a fair bit, depending on, how her AI works in the game. However, it's not necessary at all whatsoever. So she's not really worth mileaging, but she is a good character. No, absolutely not. You get her for free for clearing World 9. On Switch version, you don't, but still, don't mileage Future Princess. Her EX is not worth mileaging either because she doesn't scale as hard into the mid to end game as she used to. She's still a great hero early on. However, for tank purposes, you have Craig. For lead purposes, unless, you got absolutely shafted, like railed in your pulls, it's not worth mileaging her EX. No, Garam has just been falling off. I mean, he's being transitioned out of water raids. He's been transitioned out for a while. He's not useful out of water raids, just not at all. The character is very heavily outdated, is pretty much a selfish DPS outside of the party buff. He only just does damage. That's it. He literally only does damage. Not worth it. Absolute glass cannon. Not worth mileaging, nor is his EX. But if you are somehow, and for some reason, using his EX, you kind of do need it because it heavily increases DPS. And we all know for absolute glass cannons, you generally need a good weapon on them. But don't mileage him. Oh, this makes me really sad. Beth. Now you need Beth's EX. It's as simple as that. Beth without her EX is akin to a Bob. Well, not that bad, but it's such a different character when you have her EX because she becomes so much tankier you will feel the difference, okay? So much tankier and so much more damage, and you need her EX. If you do have Beth and you're using her as your main carry, mileaging her EX is a really good idea. But if, you already have functioning teams and you get Beth, but she's not going to change much for you, it's not worth mileaging either weapon. So, to put it short, Beth is a really good character that situationally, if you've watched the video, you would know if it's worth it to mileage her or not. But generally, it's fine to mileage her if she's going to change something for you. Like, for example, if you're already using her and she's part of your core teams, it's worth mileaging her. Rue's not. Rue's a good character. Definitely a good component of PvP Mono Earth. Usable in melee Earth raids with her Christmas bag. However, none of her kit is worth mileaging, as once again, with gun, she is a pure PvP hero. And with her EX, she's purely locked into mono Earth melees, which neither of which are really mandatory content, so don't bother with it. Not worth mileaging. Gabriel is a really, really fun character. Okay, mid to end game, I do think that if Gabriel's banner had been recent and you missed her or weren't able to get her, mileaging her actually is not too bad of an idea. Gabriel provides so much offensive utility that it's really, really good. She is super useful in content where you want more DPS. However, don't really use her if you want heals. Gabriel healing without her EX is pretty much non-existent, especially if she's not the lead. So don't bother with it. She doesn't need her EX. She's not too bad of a mileage. However, there generally are better mileages. And you'll see here and throughout the video that I'm being really stringent with the mileaging requirements. And it's because if the answers to the first two questions are yes, then you should be mileaging that. So you don't need these exact descriptions unless you're not sure if the character is worth it. No. Unless you're drunk, it's not worth it. And even if you're drunk, it's not worth it. Future Knight's in a really weird spot because Future Knight's a generic good hero. Future Knight is essentially Yunha, but much worse. Like, hey, you want Yunha? We have Yunha at home. Here's Future Knight. But Future Knight isn't bad. Future Knight is just generically good. That's it. She doesn't, stand out in anything. Like, she used to be a part of mono basic raids until Yunha came around and took that from her. However, it's weird. She is getting a buff next patch, and so she might be back on mono basic. She's just a generically good character with her melee EX, the chainsaw. She's actually pretty useful in melee colo and melee arena teams, so she's not bad there. And her range EX is just primarily mono basic raids. She's also generically good. Like, what I mean by that is she's just good. That's it. She's not super powerful. She's not game-changing. She's just good. So it's not a completely horrible idea to mileage any part of her if you're using her on your core teams, but it's also not a great idea. Veronica is in a weird spot where she has definitely been phased out in a lot of content. She's still, usable in some PvP teams and stuff like that. However, outside of that, she isn't really all too crazy. And raids, she's completely been transitioned out of mono water. So yeah, it's just it's pretty crazy there. However, she just isn't good. Don't mileage her or her EX. Noxia is another one of the situations of where it's a generically good hero. However, she doesn't stand out in anything, and unlike Future Knight, who has, positions in basic and melees, Noxia is just so generically okay that she doesn't fit into anything specifically. She's just a relatively just generically decent hero. I know I'm using generically a lot because that's all she is. No part of her, specifically aligns with a team or element or ranged or melee group because, she's just okay. That's it. Nothing really worth mileaging, but you can. However, I just wouldn't recommend it. Mayreel is a really, really fun character, okay? She is absolutely worth mileaging for Mono Earth, absolutely worth mileaging for Mono Earth in Coliseum, absolutely worth mileaging in Mono Earth for raids, absolutely worth mileaging for Mono Earth in Arena. She is just a really, really damn good DPS. She also provides a lot of support for the team with Elemental Earth Shred. So she's a really good option. Her party buff gives really nice boosts to the Earth team she's on. she's really good. If you have her and you're using her, her EX is a really good option to get. If you have her EX and you plan on using her, it's also a really good option to get. So I absolutely recommend Mayreel. MK99. This makes me quite sad also to say. However, she has just been phased out. She has just been falling off. And while she herself isn't bad. Okay, MK99 is a good hero, but with, you know, the releases of current heroes and other things, she's just been falling off. It's really sad. And yeah, she is a good hero, just good DPS. That's it. However, outside of that, she doesn't do much. So nowadays, her or her EX aren't really worth mileaging. Now, it's going to get really too long, so we're going to go with Quickfire. Well, it's absolutely not worth mileaging or her EX if you're not running her in mono melee raids, or if you're running her in a melee arena, or even Coliseum. She just isn't worth it outside of melees, and even in melees just aren't good because they lack proper support. Lilith or her EX aren't really worth mileaging. No, absolutely no. She might have big badonkadonkas, but don't let that fool you. Also big badonkadonkas, but don't let that fool you. Not worth it. Okay in endgame Coliseum for backline diving, however, outside of that, doesn't do much. Lifeguard Yuze, core part of the melee raid teams, and outside of that, good in Expedition, but once again, not really an early to mid-game investment, and especially if you include the fact that she doesn't exactly need her EX. It's nice, however, it's not really a crazy good investment. So you only need her character primarily. However, you don't really need to mileage her or her EX outside of melee raids and Expedition. Eleanor, it's another one of those weird situations. If you already have Monolite completely built, she's not a bad option. She makes Monolite pretty good. However, once again, outside of Monolite, she's just trash, and so not really a good investment, especially her or her EX. What about no? Right? No, okay? No. Arena! It's sadly a no for me, as beautiful as she is. She's only good in Arena, and that's pretty much it. She's really nice in Arena, though. She's generally always a good option in Arena. However, it's just... outside of that, she doesn't really do anything, and early to mid game, you don't want to be focusing into that. And end game wise, at that point, if you're already going for Arena, you probably already have Arena built, so I don't really recommend mileaging her or her weapon unless Arena is what you're doing at the moment. And early to mid game, you're going to lose in terms of stats, so it doesn't even matter what heroes you run. This, I think, is going to be quite a controversial opinion. I don't think L is worth mileaging. And here's why. Okay, L is absolutely phenomenal. He is generically good in every piece of content. He's super good in almost every team. He's just really good, okay? He's super splashable, super versatile. However, I don't know, man. Every elemental team has just been getting their own hyper carries. Like, L used to just be the best game hyper carry ever. Then Claude came in and was like, ooh, Claude is the hyper carry of darks and stuff, right? Then Yunha came in and now she's the hyper carry of basics. So they really give L a run for his money, and it's tough. It's really tough for L to constantly be at the top when stuff like Yunha exists. And don't get me wrong, L is absolutely the core piece of Mono Earth. He makes Mono Earth king. However, I don't know, man. Nowadays, especially, you know, since his banner is actually relatively common, right? His banners don't get delayed very often, so they have a pretty consistent few-month release schedule always. I just don't think it's worth mileaging, because if you're using him for a story carry, that's awesome. If you can start out with him, that's a phenomenal start. However, his banner generally just comes around every few months, and for story, you don't need specific units. I'm going to say the same thing for Yunha and Claude, so you don't have to worry about that either. However, if you do get Kamahel, his EX is absolutely phenomenal. Massive DPS increase and stuff. Really good to have. So, yeah, great character. It's super good. However, in terms of, you know, just mileaging him because he's L, it's not worth it. I'm going to say the same for Claude and Yunha. Don't just mileage them because they're characters. If any of them are going to change something for you, absolutely mileage them. They're game-changing characters. No, this character does not exist. I hope she rides on her bike, crashes into a building, and dies. Orca is in a weird spot. She's only good in primarily mono water raids, and she can be fun in arena. However, she doesn't do much outside of that, and for that reason, she and her EX is not really worth mileaging unless, you know, you're doing mid to end game raids, and at that point, there's just better teams to work on. Kana is pretty much mono basic raids only, and she is absolutely 1,000,000% due to be phased out of mono basics because she's a melee character. And I mean, I don't want basics getting more support. They're already super good, and I think other elements need more support. However, I do think that Kana needs to be phased out. Absolutely not worth mileaging, nor her EX. No. Hannah is cute, but that's all she is. Carol, outside of light melee, isn't really good. Like, she has some fun use. Actually, no, she's pretty good in Expedition from what I remember. However, I don't do it too actively, so I can't give you a complete, you know, reading into that. However, she, outside of mono light, I mean, she just doesn't do much, so her and her EX aren't really worth investing in. However, Carol is very, very pretty. Right, if that's a cool factor, then sure. No, do not use the autistic disabled kid. Parvati, super fun backline diver in Colosseum, just really damn fun there. She's actually really good there, and yeah, if you're an endgame player and you want more Colosseum characters and you want to do it and you already have her EX or her, it's pretty good. Now I want to drop a short little disclaimer here, and that is that it's not worth mileaging a hero or EX weapon unless you have either one of them. If you have the hero and that EX will change something for you, then it's worth mileaging the EX, right? If you already have the EX and you want to mileage the hero and that's going to change something for you, it could be worth it. However, never double mileage. 600 mileage is way too costly. Fun Colo hero, fun arena hero. However, outside of that, Priscilla doesn't do much. She's also really damn beautiful, so oh my god, I've got to get her. But yeah, not worth mileaging. Same opinion as Kama L. Super strong hyper carry, especially in Mono Darks. Absolute freaking monster. But once again, unless he's going to change something for you, or if you already have one part of him and he's going to be useful to you soon, he's worth mileaging then. However, don't just mileage him because, oh my god, I've got Claude and I want Claude. Right? Worth mileaging if you need him. Alright, niche PvP hero, not worth mileaging. Ray, melee core unit, however, outside of melee, doesn't really do much, and I personally think that melee is not that good. And not even personally, melee just isn't that good. A72 generic good hero, doesn't really have much usage. Could be used in mono water raids, but isn't really crazy there. Has some fun usage in arena. However, isn't really too good of a hero where you would want to mileage her kit or, you know, heavily build her. So, not really that great of an investment, so not worth mileaging. From now on, we're going to get really short. No, Lorraine just isn't worth mileaging. Matt Bender Trio, fun PvP hero. Outside of that, doesn't do anything. Chrome, fun expedition hero, and that's kind of all she does, right? She's just a good expedition hero. So yeah, that's all she is, right? She may in the future have some cool, you know, basic raids users if she gets buffed towards that end, but she's really good at expeditions. And so if, you know, you're a mid to end game player looking to go into expeditions and you have your other teams ready to go, you're slowly building her up, and yeah, it's a good investment, not too bad, but more so a mid to end game mileage. No, Valencia is just a no. Like, genuinely, I don't think she's that great of an option outside of light melee. And I think I confused her or Carol, I don't know. I don't remember which one's good in Expedition. I confuse these two all the time. They're just generic, you know, blonde-haired swordsman girls. So, whatever. Stinky, not worth mileaging outside of Expedition or maybe light melee. I confused Carol and Valencia, so my apologies. Crocell is, oh my god, she is way too caked up. Oh my god. Too much, way too much, but not worth mileaging. Trash hero. Andras herself isn't really worth mileaging because she's a pure DPS meter hero, right? And you don't even need her EX because she is a generic hyper DPS, right? I'm not saying hyper carry because she isn't a carry, she's just a hyper DPS. All she does is DPS. Meanwhile, Claude, Kamal, Yunha, they're hyper carries because they do everything. They heal, they do damage, they do defense shreds. Well, Undress also does defense shred, but generally she's just a raw DPS because that's all she does. Right, so if you do need, if you're progressing into raids and you have a team built up or almost built up and Undress would complete it, she's a good investment, especially if you have a good EX option or good weapon option for her. However, outside of that, she's not really worth mileaging, especially early to mid game, because she doesn't do anything for you at that point, and she doesn't need her EX outside of Mono Water or if you're running her as lead in anything. No, Sumer is absolutely, oh my god, but really hot, but not worth it. No, Paimon, we got the wrong Paimon, I think. Niche PvP here outside of that doesn't really do anything. Rosetta is getting, in my opinion, nerfed next patch, which really sucks. However, right now, she's okay. Just good, supportive DPS character. Can make for some fun suicide kamikaze teams for PvP. And outside of that, doesn't really have much usage. So her or her EX aren't really worth mileaging. Rapid fire round. White Snow, no. First Corps Commander is actually really good, especially for raids, right? However, Arena and raids is where she shines the best. Her and her EX boosts her defense shredding. So yes, if you have her or her EX and she benefits you a lot, either one is worth mileaging. Not too bad, however. Do realize outside of raids and Arena, she's not going to be much use. Kai is just Rosetta, but melee version. Chunryo, just good raid defense shredder option, right? Just generic defense shredder. It doesn't do too much outside of that. And he is everyone's least favorite NTR monk, and you do actually need his EX for him to function. Amaris, just Earth Raid option. Outside of that, doesn't really do much. Sia is just good Coliseum healer. Is actually pretty damn good in boss rush, especially once you start stacking trials. So yeah, her or her EX, if you have either one, is not bad to mileage depending on what value it gives. And no, stop. Yunha, same clause and rules as Claude and Kamau. Light Shapira, only useful in mono light melees. Outside of that, no. Morian, no. Vanette, only useful in Monodarks, and in Monodark, she is an absolute monster. She actually needs her EX to properly heal and function regarding to, most of her ability, especially defense shredding. So she's really good there. However, outside of that, she doesn't provide much usage, and outside of Monodark, she is absolutely stinky. So if you are running Monodarks, Vanette's a great option, especially if you have her or EX, it's not bad to mileage. And that's it for all the heroes. Now, that was a long time now. Yeah, I hope you all found this helpful, and if you all enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you all in the next one.